G'day and welcome back for more Space Engineers Survival. Last time, I said I wanted to upgrade the ugly duckling. But thinking about what I did when I built this thing, and maybe a little bit of sentimentality, I've decided that instead of upgrading it, I'm going to replace it entirely, but keep it around just in case I crash, and also because I've grown attached to it. One of the reasons that I think upgrading it will be quite difficult is that if we look at our medium cargo container here, I've actually arranged it in such a way that to connect up anything to what has become the front requires connecting up to the connector instead of the cargo container itself. And that's really not a very easy way to work around in terms of designing something that's going to be a lot bigger. And I think it might be better to start from scratch instead. So with that in mind, I also recall that our nickel stores may not be as large as we need them to be. I like to build with large thrusters, even though they're not as efficient, because they look a bit nicer. And even if I didn't, we're going to need a lot of motors for this new construction. And if we stop this one from being on unlimited and make assembler 5 cooperate with it, then we can have a look at how much we're really going to need. If we go to our small blocks, we're going to need at least 4 batteries, and we're probably going to need somewhere in the order of 20 small atmospheric thrusters, and then a bunch of stuff beyond that. And that's already using up 2060 nickel with just those parts ordered. We've got a little over 3,000. So I think it might be a good idea, while there's still light out, to go and mine a little bit of extra nickel and take our last, well, hopefully our last trip with the ugly duckling. And let's hope it's really not its very last trip, because that would mean I've crashed. Turn our battery off recharge, and down we go. Alright, now we're back with our nickel. We should be good to hopefully get all of the components we need for this bigger, upgraded mining ship. Let's see what we've got production-wise, what's going on. Assembler 5's helping it out. Seems like we might have already gotten all the batteries done, which is excellent. Alright, we need a few of these. Got a few of those, need a few more of those pieces, so that we can lay out our designs for our new big miner. My plan is to have 3 drills on the front of this one. So we'll be able to get through the ore a substantial amount quicker than we currently can with our little ugly duckling, and hopefully mean that we won't be spending our entire days mining out when we choose to have when we need a little bit of ore. So we can make one trip and get a big load ready for building for a few days to come, if I'm lucky. Now, the parts we need for this are going to be, we need a landing gear, we need a cockpit, battery. Don't think we're going to need we may put a remote control on it anyway. Need an antenna, going to need gyroscopes, going to need thrusters. We're going to need a projector block for when we finally finish the thing and we want to be able to have it so it can be repaired easily. We're going to need drills, and we're going to need light armor blocks, as well as medium cargo containers, conveyor tubes, connector, and that's everything I can think of at the moment. But oh no, wait, ejector, sorter. There we go. That should be pretty much everything we need, as well as a programmable block, I'm sure. Okay, that should be everything we need. So we'll start off with a landing gear, which is not going to place nicely, is it? There we go. Now it's playing nicely. Armor blocks on top so that we can get a nice clear space in which to build this thing. Now I'm going to start with our cockpit, which means we need to add an extra piece upwards like that, as you can't place a cockpit without it. And auto rotates on, so we'll turn that off with T, line it up, and as you can see there's a connector on the front of this cockpit, and I want to join our drills up to that. And I'm just going to debate whether I join it directly to the cockpit, whether I leave one block space between it. And I think we'll go direct, but we're not going to join the side ones up directly to the middle one. Instead, we're going to place a conveyor tube on each side, and then we'll place the other two drills out there. Between drill shake and the fact that these drill out slightly larger an area than the drill itself, we shouldn't have any issues having that extra space. And the upshot of that extra space is we can put some reversing thrusters in that gap so they don't damage the drills, but they also don't have to be stuck out to the sides where I'm likely to run into the rock walls with them. So that should prevent some of the damage that may end up happening to the ship. Next up, we're going to want to have batteries on this, but we've got two choices about how we can arrange this. On the back of the cockpit, if we have a look at our model here, you can see there's those two conveyor ports, and we probably want to use them to connect up to our cargo systems. And on the bottom we've got a large one, so we could take advantage of this bottom one, place our connector underneath the cockpit like that, and then out the back of this we can do something maybe a little like this. If we place one that way and one curve that way, and then how's it going to look if we put our medium cargo containers on the side here? Will that be too bulky? So that'll give us space to put the batteries in the middle of the cargo containers. If we put 4 cargo containers, that's going to be a fairly large amount that we have to lift. That should work. Then let's grab our batteries. We'll place them in the middle here. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it with those edges pointing up. 1, 2, 3, like that. I might just stick with 3 batteries for now, depending on how much space we end up creating for all of the thrusters that we need to put on this thing. The nice thing about leaving... Oh dear, ran out of hydrogen. The thing I like about leaving this gap behind the cockpit between these two blocks is that it allows us to put things like gyroscopes in there. We can hide our antenna and other bits and pieces in that gap. Though I think I may rearrange this just so ever so slightly once I get some hydrogen back. With the design for this ship, I have a reasonable idea of what I'm trying to achieve, and I want to have 2 rows of cargo containers, and I want to try and fit the batteries in the middle. But what I might do instead of putting the cargo containers right here is, I'm going to have to tie down those, is they don't need to be immediately against this space. So if we want to create a bit more room for thrusters and other bits and pieces, we could put a straight piece of conveyor tube in there and another one in there, and then we can place our medium cargo containers onto those, which will then line up perfectly with our outer drill and allow for a slightly broader shape to the ship. But that will also mean, instead of having our batteries lined up like vertically like this, we can do this and line them up this way. We should be able to fit 3 straight. Oh no! It only gives us 5 gap. Dang it. That doesn't work at all. Ah, but. What it can give us is room to do this. So, by creating this extra gap between these two blocks, I can then place a bunch of lifting thrusters, and I might actually not do what I was thinking. I might actually stick with trying to get small thrusters for every single direction. And that's already 8 lifting thrusters. We can then put our batteries in the middle here, which we might need to place. Let's place our projector down here. Now, the cross is the top, and the bar is the front. So where is the bar? There's the bar. So we want to go that way, so that it's orientated correctly. We can then place our batteries down. And more thrusters. Place another 2 lifting thrusters. So that's 10 small thrusters. And now you can see it's sort of starting to take shape. We then need sideways thrust, reverse, and forwards thrust. With this laid out like this, we get a pretty decent idea of where we're going to go, but there's a few pieces that I think will be difficult to get access to, particularly in here, that I think it might be worth welding up all of this right now before we start placing armor blocks so that we can get the extra thrusters in, and so that we get a bit of a better idea of how we're going to hide these medium cargo containers in a way that's interesting, or hopefully aesthetically pleasing in a small way. So this isn't quite as ugly as the ugly duckling. So I'm going to jump ahead to when I've welded up as much of this as I can, and then we'll keep going with the design work. Now that I've welded up the bits of the ship that I've placed down so far, and you can see I haven't welded up the batteries yet, just in case I need to move them. I don't want to put the power cells in there, as if I then have to grind them down, I'm destroying those power cells, and that's just a bit wasteful. So we've got 10 lifting thrusters. I don't think that's going to be quite enough. I think we're probably going to need, if we're using all small thrusters, somewhere close to 15, maybe even 20 to lift all of the stuff that can fit in these 3 drills, the cockpit, and these 4 cargo containers. But we'll try and leave a bit of room for expansion just in case, so that we can add more thrusters after we've actually mostly finished the construction. Now I wanted to put in some reverse thrusters in these gaps between the drills. So we need to have a base on which to place them. And then if we place them down maybe like that. And then instead of having the next one directly on top of it, let's place another armor block there. And then should be able to place it up on top of it. So they'll be offset like that. Then we can do the same on this side. And I'm going to weld these armor blocks as I go, just in case I can't get into some of them later on, as that is reasonably likely to happen. So that'll give us 4. We probably need more than 4 though. So let's go underneath. And when we're getting close to full load, we're probably going to need... Actually, maybe we could do... Do I think I could... Can I fit one in between? Will it let me place it? No. To get one in between, I'm going to need to get some armor out in front of those pieces, and that's probably a little too close to the front, so I guess we'll avoid doing that. We'll just place 6 like that. And if we want to have some more, we could always put an extra 2 out here. And that will give us pretty solid reverse thrust, so that hopefully if we're tilting slightly forward with our drills, we still should be able to push off and not damage the ship and get it onto its lifting thrusters. I tend to design my mining ships so that I do have to keep them mostly horizontal. I think it makes it a bit more efficient on the components you need, even if it does mean you have to fly just a little more carefully. Now, we need to place in a couple of gyroscopes. And I think placing them right in here, immediately behind the cockpit, should be a reasonable place to have them. We can then put a remote control in here just in case we need to remote control the ship at a later stage. I'm expecting to fly this in first person most of the time, or in third person. And something I just thought of that I forgot to put on this ship, which is not on the Ugly Duckling, but will be on this one, we're going to need some lights. And I don't want to just rely on my suit lights this time. I want some real proper headlights going on. Now, maybe we could put them in between the drills, although that's probably not going to be all that effective. Yeah, that's probably not going to be that effective. I think we'll place them somewhere out here once we get some armor in this spot. Let's stop using our jetpack as I don't need to. I think what we'll do is we'll have one of these pieces there, another one there, full block there, and we've got that there, so that then we can put another one of these the other way around there. And we'll give this kind of curved look to that bit of armor, which will also allow us, actually maybe we could not have that there, and instead let's place our spotlights on there. And place a spotlight on that spot as well. And then place armor underneath. Which will then be another one of these pieces. So if we weld up those bits, you'll get an idea of what I'm getting at. There we go. We can do that on both sides. And I don't know why I placed an inverted corner. Let's get rid of that. Instead, place a proper cube. Now we mostly won't be able to see this block here, so let's tuck another one of our necessary components that doesn't need to be directly accessed. Let's tuck a programmable block in there, which I do not have all the parts for, and I will get them later. So I'll match this up on both sides. I wanted to tuck a few programmable blocks on this ship, as I expect I'll be adding some scripts at a later stage. I'm not sure what they'll be yet, but so that capacity's there, I wanted to make sure, so that ability's there without us having to make big additions or changes, I wanted to make sure it was there now. What we're going to need next is we're going to need some side thrust. And I think could probably do with one there, and then maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 on there. And I think we could probably also do with another couple on top. So that'll be 7 that way. So we need 7 the other way as well. With these thrusters, I'm just roughly estimating how many I'm going to need. I may need to add more later. And I'm also somewhat deliberately not placing them in straight lines. I want to have some shapes that I need to work around with the armor, which will make it a bit more interesting as I place all of that down. Which is also why I placed these 2 thrusters all the way out here to the sides, which is a bit of an odd orientation for my usual builds, but should make it an interesting challenge to fit everything in. Now, we're going to also need some forward thrust. I'm very tempted to add a couple of large thrusters for lift beyond those 10 small ones, just for style at the back, and I think I'm going to do that. But to do that, I want to have some space around them so I can armor around them and we're not directly attached to things with them. So let's place a block like that, and maybe a large lifting thruster like that. And yes, I do know these are not as efficient per... they're not as efficient per component, they're not as efficient for power, but they look so much better. So I really want to do that, and I'll probably end up grinding off maybe these 2 rear small ones. That should end up with plenty of upward thrust. Now we just need forward thrust, which we can place by getting a row of armor blocks. So we go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll have 8 forward thrusters. We'll have all those lifting thrusters. We've got sideways. We've got reverse. That's 8 and... Yep, 8 reverse, 8 forward. That's good. We've got lights on the front. Once I armor the rest of it, I'm going to add some interior lights around it so that we can light up the entirety of any cave we're in so that we can see where we're going, which will be incredibly useful with a ship this size so that I don't end up crashing as often as I otherwise might. I'm suspicious that 2 gyroscopes is not going to be adequate for spinning this ship around, so I'm going to add another couple. One in here, so we'll go directly above that side. One in here. Then I'm going to add in our antenna. Going to realize that I've forgotten yet another block, which is our detector. We'll pop that in on the opposite side to the antenna. And then let's have a look through our blocks. We've got our landing gear, which we're going to delete. We've got our remote control block, battery, cockpit, ore detector, gyroscope, thrusters, projector. We need an ejector system. That's what I haven't built. I knew I was missing something. So for the ejector system, I think what we'll do... I want to have the ejectors facing like this, outward. But I don't really want to have it... Actually, I probably could have it shooting straight off this. So if we grab our small conveyor sorter, place it like that, then place our ejector out there... These will be very prone to getting knocked off, but they kind of have to be so we don't have the problems with those rocks spawning and damaging our own ship. And we'll grab another one over here. And depending on how effective those are, I may end up adding an extra one on each of the other 2 cargo containers so that we can eject even more stone more quickly. But hopefully the 2 of them will be adequate for what we're doing. Now I've got to weld up all of these functional components, and then we'll get on to cladding this thing in a small shell of light armor that'll hopefully make it look a little bit more stylish. So we'll jump ahead till I've welded up every last bit of this thing. And that's most of the pieces we've placed down. I haven't built the antenna or the detector yet, but you can see we're already lighting up a fair bit of area with this thing. And what we need to do now is attach it to the top of the base so that we can start getting those batteries fully charged up. But right now, this little fella's in the way. So we need to move it, and at some point I'm going to need to build a place that it can reconnect to the base from. So if we disconnect, turn off our battery from recharge. And for now, I'm just going to drop this down here next to this connector. I'll probably just build another connector directly on top of those armor blocks there. I reckon that will do enough. Uh-oh. That might have been a mistake. That might have been a big mistake. Oh dear. Ah dear. Well, that's going to be fun to fix. I have left the ugly duckling upside down. Oh, bugger. You dope. Why did you think it would stay upright on that slope? Alright. Anyway, we will come back and fix that later. Now let's disconnect this from its landing gear base. And good, it flies. That's always reassuring. And hop in. Now, how much... Whoa, that's got a lot of lift. And the gyroscopes seem to be a bit more powerful than we need them. But I want to have those extras just in case. But for now, let's drop their power down to 50%. Oh, 0.5. That should be 50%. Yeah. I'm much less likely to break something off by spinning this ship now. Let's slowly get into place. Do we fit? I think we'll place the drills against the mountain. I think that's the shortest side. Okay, and we park. Right now, I'm not going to set these batteries to recharge, I think, because we've only got a small amount of stored... Oh no, we've got 2 megawatts in some of them, and these will take off... Maybe... I have to think about that one. Maybe we'll wait until day before I start depleting all of the power, because I might accidentally take off too much from the base. And it wouldn't be very good to leave the base with absolutely no power left. Next up, we've got to design all of the armor for this, and we'll have to set up all of the controls in the cockpit, and that's all going to happen in the next episode. And that's going to come very, very soon. I am hopeful it might even be tomorrow. So there's that and plenty more to come, and I'll see you then.